we're discussing the significance of Jesus actually physically being resurrected. So the first question from the NT Wright asked here is, why is Jesus' encounter with Thomas the most dramatic of all of the resurrection appearances? And you got to think, there were several. Now, he didn't go over all of them. He went over some of them last time when you guys weren't here. On the road to Emmaus, when he was walking with these two disciples, he's walking, they're sad, they're mourning, he shows up, they don't really recognize who he is, and then he goes, and as he's sitting and he's eating with them and he breaks bread, they recognize who he is, right? Now, this time, though, what had happened here is Thomas was not there the first time he showed up to the disciples. And they tell him, hey, Thomas, this is going to sound crazy, but we saw Jesus. Now, you got to think about how Thomas's mind is working. This is, like I said last week, Thomas kind of gets a bad rap. But what's cool here is Thomas is like, no, I won't believe it until I see it. And so he gets the moniker, doubting Thomas. Everybody calls him the doubting, so, oh, you're such a doubting Thomas. You hear people say that all the time. But he's like, I physically want to see it, and people count that as a lack of faith. But would you really count that as a lack of faith just because he really wants to see him? Not necessarily. One reason he wants to see him is because, he developed a relationship with Jesus and he was close to him. And he's mourning. So, it's like if I came to you, if somebody who was close to you died and I came to you, Isaac, man, like, you won't believe I saw so-and-so. You'd be like, man, shut up. You'd be mad, right? You'd be like, stop playing. This is not funny, And they grew up in a time when you were dead, you were dead. So, what makes this so dramatic? Now he's with them, and all of a sudden Jesus shows up again. But he doesn't just see him. Jesus, and the privilege is he doesn't just let him see him. What does he do?
He sticks his hand, just like, look, it is me.
Yeah.
Touch me.
Yeah, the holes. He gets to actually put his hand where the nails were, put his hand in the side, and that.
And that's a man believer.
Yeah, that's a huge thing, but it's also to show too that, and Johnny pointed this out last week when he was talking about it, about how, the significance of Jesus actually being in a physical body and not just some kind of apparition that shows up and like, ooh, I'm back. He's not like a ghost. He's actually physically back. He sits down and he eats with them. He stuffs his belly. He does. Yet, like he pointed out, though, it's still something different because he can show up and disappear at will. So he's a physical being, but yet he has a different. It's not the same makeup as it was before. So that's what makes it so dramatic, is the actual getting to touch the physical body. Because I think this is the first time in any resurrection narrative where he is touched by anybody. Because when Mary goes to hug him at the grave, or whoever was there, I think it was Mary. I'm probably rusty on that. Probably go read that again. But when she goes to hug him, he tells her not to. So I think this is the first time when anybody touches him after he's been resurrected. So that's one thing that makes it so dramatic. Question 2. How might Thomas's story help people around us who need to encounter the risen Jesus, yet who are unable to believe that a person could be physically raised from the dead? Now, this is a tough question now, so I'm asking it again. How might Thomas's story help people around us who need to encounter the risen Jesus, yet who are unable to believe that a person could be physically raised from the dead? How could you use what happened to Thomas as a way to help someone kind of understand or try to wrap their head around that?
I guess, how the whole thing, you could use yourself as like...
How?
I guess through like your trials, I guess. Would that be a good way to show them that, the person you used to be and then the person that that God changed you into?
Okay, you could do that. But how specifically in the way that Thomas was convinced on the physical body? Because remember what Jesus said after? He said, you have seen me and believe, but blessed are those who
don't see
me that believe anyway.
Who don't see me and still believe. So how do you think we could use that as a way to help someone?
Since they have faith.
Mm-hmm. You can have faith to believe.
That's what he said in the video.
Mm-hmm.
He said to just have faith, or to always have faith.
To have faith and to look at the, like he said, to look at the evidence as it's presented before you. You know, and we'll get to that in just a second here, because now we are gonna go to John 11 to kind of correlate. And this might kind of help answer this question a little bit better. There's a story. Jesus was the only person to resurrect in the New Testament. As you know, Jesus rose other people from the dead. Now, the difference here is Jesus was buried, but there was somebody else who was buried also. Okay, and this is something to look at too. Here, and it's the story of Lazarus. Okay, so in John chapter 11, and I'll just go ahead and start reading the first part, and then I might skip a few, but we'll see how it goes as I read it here. Now, a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was ill. So the sister sent to him, saying, Lord, he whom you love is ill. But when Jesus heard it, he said, this illness does not lead to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. And this is where it gets crazy. So, when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Now, I'll stop there for a second. Now, think about the last verse I just read. It said that it said that he loved Lazarus and his sisters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a transitional word.
So,
when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was.
He mentioned he was going to die, so he decided to stay.
Did he? But he told him. But what did he tell him before that, though?
He told him that he's sick, but it's not going to lead to death, so you guys don't have to worry about it.
But he died. He stayed. He purposely stayed.
He was scared. Because he knew he was going to die.
He purposely stayed. It says he loved him, so he stayed where he was.
Maybe.
So Jesus loved Lazarus enough to let him die. Now, I know that's probably kind of hard to wrap your head around, but he lets him die for a reason. Okay? So it says he loved him, so he stayed 2 days longer. Okay? Then after, he said to his disciples, let's go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and are you going there again? Jesus answered, are not there 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks at night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. After saying these things, he said to them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awaken him. The disciples said to him, Lord, if he's fallen asleep, he will recover. Now Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought that he meant he was taking rest and sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and for your sake I am glad that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. And here's good old Thomas again. So Thomas called the twin. His name was Didymus. That's what that word means in Aramaic, I think. Thomas, I think it means a twin, or Didymus.
Okay.
He said to his fellow disciples, let us also go that we may die with him. I think he's being a little sarcastic there, but okay. So Jesus tells them now, I'm glad I didn't go. So now it gets even stranger. If you're on the outside listening to this for the first time, you're like, okay, he loved him, so he let him die. And now he's saying he's glad that he let him die.
For our sake.
Because, yes, he's leading up to something. He's about to show something bigger than just what other miracles of raising people from the dead have been. So, We keep going here. Now Jesus came. When Jesus came, he found Lazarus already in the tomb 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Mary and Martha to console them concerning their brother. So when Mary heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, but Mary remained seated in the house. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha said to him, "I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world." Okay. Now, so this is sort of giving us an insight to what he's about to do, and it sort of gives us insight to how we go about this question. Some people might say, "Man, yeah, you're telling me that Jesus rose from the dead, and you want me to believe in a bodily resurrection of this guy. What does this have to do with me? Even if I choose to believe this, what does this have to do? Why should I? How is me believing this going to affect me in any way, shape, form, or fashion?" Okay, so now that's the question that you probably would be posed with when you bring this up. So here's where we're going to continue on. Verse 28. When she had said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying in private, "The teacher is here and is calling for you." And when she heard it, she rose quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary rise quickly and go out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Now when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit and greatly troubled. And he said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come see." And this next verse, shortest verse in the Bible, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Shortest verse 36 of chapter 11. Jesus wept.
It's 35.
35. Sorry. 35. Jesus wept. Okay. Now it says he's deeply moved, but now he sees the emotion, he sees this, and I have my note here says, Jesus joins his friends' sadness with heartfelt sorrow, yet underlying it is the knowledge that the resurrection and joy will soon follow. Jesus' example shows that heartfelt mourning in the face of death does not indicate a lack of faith, but honest sorrow at the reality of suffering and death. So yeah, you would think, man, why is Jesus crying about this when he knows he's about to pop this guy out of the grave like a jack-in-the-box? But it's because you mourn with those who are mourning. You rejoice with those who are rejoicing. Jesus is showing a real heartfelt. He sees this. This is the guy he loved. He sees the pain that death causes his creation. He sees this pain. He sees the suffering, and he feels it. He understands it. And so now, 36. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, Could not he who opened the eyes of a blind man also have kept this man from dying?" So once again, everyone's like, well, if he, and even Mary and Martha are like, man, if he would have been here, this wouldn't have had to happen. He didn't have to die.
But he's doing this to prove a point.
He's doing this to prove a point. He's showing them a bigger picture also.
He's going to show them, watch.
Yes, he's going to show them a bigger picture. Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, "Lord, by this time there will be an odor, for he has been dead for 4 days." Now, this is important. This verse is important because there was a belief in Judaism that the spirit hovered over the body for like 3 days. trying to get back in it. Okay? Trying to get back in the body. And then once it didn't get back in, it left. It poofed. So, the fact that she said he's been dead for 4 days, one, that's part of the significance, which, because he's about to turn this idea on its head. Two, is that by him staying, as long as he did, there is no doubt in anybody's mind that this cat is dead.
Yeah.
He is there's about to be a pungent stench coming from that tomb. She's like, wait, because if you open this thing, it ain't gonna be nothing nice. Okay? So Jesus says to her, did I not tell you that if you believe, you would see the glory of God? So they took away the stone. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me. When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The man who had died came out, his hands and feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said, unbind him and let him go. So,
what does unbind mean?
like, the way they did the bodies was sort of mummy-like. He was wrapped in like burial. So as he's coming out, he's still
tightened up?
Yeah, he's still tightened up. So there's no doubt. So all of these things are really important because he's stinking 1 minute. He's stinking dead 1 minute.
Yeah.
And then when he comes out, he's wrapped up. So you know that, you know, this cat was dead. Everybody's seen him. He was dead. He had died. He was in the ground dead. Everybody knew he was dead. Okay? No trickery here. And you know what else? Jesus wasn't there when it happened. Now, what do you think people would have tried to say if he would have been there? Maybe.
It's a lie.
It was a trick.
It was a lie.
He wasn't nowhere to be found.
So is this going to cause like a little chaos?
Oh, yeah. It caused a lot of chaos, actually. Just, if you keep going, at 45, many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what he did, believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. So the chief priests and Pharisees gathered the council and said, what are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away our place and our nation. So the heart of the Jews is like really, the Jewish Sanhedrin is really exposed here because what are they really worried about?
Getting taken over.
Their position. Mm-hmm. Their position that they have. They have a nice little niche carved out for themselves in the Roman Empire. They don't want to give it up, and he's turning all that on his head. So now, 49, but one of them, Caiaphas, who was the high priest that year, said to them, you know nothing at all, nor do you understand that it is better for you that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish. Did I read that right? Yes,
yeah.
It is better for you that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish. And it says he did not say this of his own accord, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation.
Saying he would be crucified.
Yes.
That's what he meant to say.
Okay. Now what's crazy here is there's a little plot going on. So what happens is, because like he said, it starts chaos. Like he called it. He called it before we even got there. He was like, he knew that's got to be trouble. This guy was dead. He's raised from the dead. People are going to start freaking out. Okay? So it causes a problem. But in that...
Not to mention, this is already the resurrected Jesus on top of that.
No, this is not the resurrection. He hadn't even gone. See, this is what I did. I took it back.
I thought it was after resurrected.
No.
It took me off guard. We were like, oh, we're going back.
That's why I want to do it. It's like a little flash. We're doing a lost moment here. Here's the airplane. We're doing a little flashback.
Okay,
we went back for a second. This is before. So he's giving you a snapshot. That's why I love this story, because it kind of helps put this all in perspective. It gives you he's giving you a snapshot. This is almost exactly what's going to happen to him. Except for he does it in 3 days, not 4. There's a stone. It gets rolled away. He comes out of the tomb. But the difference is this Lazarus is raised from the dead. Lazarus still has to die again. Okay? what ushering in the new kingdom would look like, and what was going. And so also and I think what helps them too is you should be able to correlate this to his death and his resurrection. You're not going to be, even though they were still obviously rattled by it, but just showing that he does have that power over life and death, and to show the guarantee that this is what we have, like N.T. Wright said, this is what we have to look forward to also. That he may not stop it in this life, but he will. And she even says, I know that you will raise him. I know that you're going to raise him up on the last day. And he's basically like, I can do that now. And it's sort of an indication of what happens to us spiritually. Resurrection isn't something that we just wait for physically. Before you're a Christian, it says that you're dead in your trespasses and sins. Book of Revelation says, blessed are those who are of the first resurrection, of whom second death has no power. So the idea here is man doesn't just die once, he dies twice. You die spiritually, or you're born dead spiritually, and then you die physically. Okay? If you're dead spiritually, second death has a grip on you, because now you're double dead. You're dead. That's actually a term used in Genesis, and in the Hebrew it says, the day you eat of that tree, you will die. That's the emphasis of the death.
So
there's no surely die in their language. It's whenever something needs emphatic, it's double. So you're gonna die. When you say somebody's dead, how dead is it? He's dead. He's dead. He's double dead.
That means he's dead. He ain't coming back.
Yeah, he ain't coming back. So when you die spiritually, you're dead physically. There's no coming back for you. You're alive spiritually in Christ. You die physically. Oh, you come back. See, that's the difference, and that's what he's showing them. He's giving them a little snapshot of what the resurrection will be like.
Because he didn't die spiritually.
Right.
He died physically. So
Right.
They crucified him.
Right.
That's why he came back.
He came
3
back
days.
because, right, and like Johnny said, he came back because he was what? He was not guilty. He was innocent. And that's what happens with us. When we believe in Christ, God doesn't look at what we do. Because, see, this is what Satan does all day. He accuses. That's the name. Diablo. Diabolos. Diabolical. That's where we get that word from. The word means to hurl. Like to throw stuff. Because what Satan does is he hurls accusations at you every day. He goes for God and goes, look at Billy, look at Jesse, look at Johnny, look at Sean. How in the world would you want these guys? Look at what they are, look at what they're about, look at what they do. They're not perfect. What do they have to bring to the table? You're going to say those guys, give them to me. They're not even worthy to be. That's what he does all day long. He does it to you too. When you mess up, you start feeling bad, like, man, shouldn't do that, and you hear that little voice in your head, man, you are low. You are worse than worse. You're a piece of, you're just nothing. How can anybody love you? How can anybody want you? That's what he does, because if you can keep somebody there, that brings about spiritual death, will eventually bring about which will bring about physical death. So here, Jesus is saying, and what does he tell them? I am the resurrection and the life. So, and he shows them that through a physical miracle, that not only do I bring back the physical, but I also bring back the spiritual. Because, like I said, the belief that the body hovered over for 3 days and it left, they thought he was gone. As far as they were concerned, Lazarus wasn't coming back. He was gone. So here it is, 4 days. Boop. Here he is, alive and well. Now what's funny here is if you keep reading the story, they make a plot to kill Jesus, and they want to kill Lazarus too. So Lazarus was having a rough day. He had died. He'd been brought back to life. And then now you get the word that, hey, I know you just got back and all, somebody's coming to kill you again. He was having a really rough day. But this is showing how even before Jesus gets crucified, over in like chapter 19 or whatever it is, that, man, resurrection is going to happen. It's a reality. And he shows it even in this world, in this. So when we go back to that question too, how do we use Thomas's story to help people around us who need to encounter the risen Jesus, yet are unable to believe that a person could physically be raised from the dead,
Do what Jesus did.
you can go back to Lazarus. You can go back to the story of Lazarus. You can go back to, you can talk about the evidence that's there in Scripture. And like he said, that's really the only one that fits. Because the two, you guys missed it. Us talking about the two theories that fly around out there other than the resurrection. What were the swoon theory, that Jesus was just like knocked out from blood loss, or that
He was like in a coma or something.
How are you gonna be knocked out from blood loss?
or that he had a twin, like, you know, the twin theory.
Yeah.
Is the other one.
That's
like
retarded.
the prestige. Yes, it's very retarded. It's you know, that some guy was just hanging out. You know, long lost twin brother shows up on the scene, knocks a couple holes in his hands and his feet.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
I know, but you know, and this is what, or the other one is, I forgot about this, the mass delusion theory. That all these people, and remember the verse we looked at where he said 500 people saw it, 500 people saw it?
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to say that all those people that saw him,
Tripping.
they're all tripping. Every single one of them. So, like he said, none of the other theories make any sense. So when you go and you look at it, and you got to realize this is a historical document, you know, and Romans were good at killing people, and no one's been able to knock it down for 2,000 years. So when you go to it and you face the evidence, you say you have to do something with it. Now, what they do with it, we have no control over, right?
Right.
But you can present it before them and go, look, this is your only viable option. And I was talking with, I'll give you another example of how to do it. Talking with Nell this week about what we've been studying. And so she was saying, yeah, you know, I'm a Christian, I grew up Catholic, and, you know, and I believe what I believe, but I understand, like, it could be hard for some people to believe, you know, with it. I mean, it is a kind of hard to believe story. You're talking about people rising from the dead and miracles and that. And the thing I use is, but you believe things every day, like you said, on faith, right?
Yeah.
You take things every day on faith that you probably don't even think about. Who watched the playoff game yesterday? Or the day before?
That was
Basketball?
yesterday.
Yes. Who watched the playoff game? Anybody? Anybody see the game?
I heard about it.
You heard about it, right?
Yeah.
You believe it happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you there?
No.
Mm-mm.
There's evidence.
What evidence?
Internet.
It was on TV.
Yeah.
People, it was on TV. People were there. They saw it, but I wasn't there. But it's
They
funny
could be
because
delusional.
that's what people do when they go to like Scripture. They do that. They go, well, I mean, come on, you really gonna believe it? You see, bro, how do I even know the Civil War happened? I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm trusting that happened hundreds of years before I was even a gleam in my mother's eye. And I go around saying it happened. How do I know slavery happened? How do I know any of that stuff? That could be an out lie for all I know. But what do? I trust the historical data, right? But yet, when we come to this,
Everything's a lie.
everything's. Oh, wait a minute. No, we gotta know. Hang on.
'Cause I think sometimes that's the one thing that has the most truth in it. And this the many. No.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's one of those things. I mean, I wasn't there. I've never been a slave. I don't know that slavery happened. I've seen pictures. You know, it's just like when people say that you know, we verbally and emotionally crucify people who say that the Holocaust didn't happen. Right? If someone goes, the Holocaust didn't happen, you're like, shame on you. You are like the scum of the earth, right? You get after them for that, but then people go, I don't know if this whole resurrection thing happened. You know, I don't. That's it. Okay, so we're right back at a Holocaust moment.
Mm-hmm.
We got to give them. Then we got to give them their just due too. Well, I don't believe this. Then why should? How do I know the Civil War happened? How do I know my ancestors were slaves? How do I know that Russia is even over there? I've never been there. That could be. Well, we have a globe. Okay, Christopher Columbus thought the world was flat, and right. See, when you become a skeptic, there's no end to it.
And that wasn't that long ago.
Right.
In year-wise.
In the grand scheme of human history, that was not that long ago. So when you start becoming a skeptic, you just got to be a skeptic all the way, man. You doubt everything. Like, there's nothing that you should believe in, ever. You can't believe even what your mama told you last night. I mean, because if a skeptic's mindset is, if I was not physically there and I didn't see it, then I can't believe it. Now, Thomas gets his proof. We're talking about what to do with people that don't get theirs. And this is what you do. You present the historical data to them. Factually, this is historical data. This is what, and we believe this. We take it on faith, as he said, you know. And that's what Jesus told Thomas. You've seen and you believe. Blessed are those who don't see, yet still believe in this reality, you know. And it's not magic. And I think that's where we have to make it the difference. There's a big difference between, as Lecrae said, I don't believe in magic, I believe in miracles. What's the difference between a miracle and magic?
Magic is like something that like appears out of nowhere or something like that.
It's a trick.
Yeah, and miracle is like something that something can actually happen.
It's something that can actually happen, but we may
It's
not be able.
beyond belief, or you can't explain it.
Exactly, it's beyond explanation. And that's a serious difference, you know, but we, in our society and the way we work things, we don't really separate those words. Miracle, magic, same thing.
They call magic tricks. Because,
Right.
Because of the reason that, nobody can actually do what they do in magic tricks. They just can make you
Think
believe
that it happened. It's an illusion,
Yeah.
sleight of hand, you know. And so this is not an illusion. And so when you look at that evidence of Thomas, that's the whole beauty of it. There's no illusion there. Stick your hand here. That's a hole. That's a hole. That's a hole. Right? So we gotta. This is an eyewitness account. That's what we're reading here. Eyewitness account by a guy who lived to be 100.
And a doubter.
He was there. John. Here's what people don't know. John wrote the book of Revelation before he wrote the Gospel of John. John was an old man. He wrote his gospel last. Okay? So when he wrote this, he was the longest living witness to all this stuff that was going down. Okay, so if there's anybody here, and he keeps saying over and over in his gospel that, and Jesus did these things. He said it at the end that Jesus did many more things that if we tried to tell you, no book would be able to hold. So he's like, we're really just giving you a snapshot. So this is a historical document. This is historical data. Luke says the same thing. I've researched all of this, you know, to make sure that it's accurate, you know. So this is not, you know, the names are mentioned here because at the time, a lot of these people were still alive. You could go talk to them. You want to know what she said? Go talk to her. You want to know what actually happened? Go talk to this dude. So these are eyewitness accounts. So it's very different when you start looking at it that way and you look at stories like Lazarus and things like that. It's historical. I always keep that at the front of everything because that's where people are going to get to you. They're going to go, you're just reading a book that's full of stories and tales that are like, you know, they're like old wives' tales. Or someone sat down and wrote this to try to make you be a better person. There's nothing in here that's just going to do that because these stories aren't built for that. You see about guys running away when Jesus is getting crucified. You see about guys, you know, you hear about guys, and you see the stories about guys who are like completely not able to do what they need to do in a moment. That's not propaganda. We said that last week. That's me telling you an eyewitness account of what actually happened. We tried to exorcise a demon. It failed. That's not propaganda. Because if it was propaganda, it would work every single time. We saw Jesus getting crucified and we ran. That's not propaganda. Okay? So I would say have them look at the historical evidence. Question 3. So the rest of this should roll pretty quickly because we kind of crushed down a lot right there. Question 3. After the resurrection of Jesus, the Jews who believed in him quickly began to rethink and re-articulate all of their beliefs about how God would establish his kingdom and what their future hope would look like. How is this evidence in the support of the bodily resurrection of Jesus? So remember, they kind of believed once you were gone, you were gone, or that if you were resurrected, you would be...
second thoughts when you resurrected.
Yes, it caused them to rethink.
It was like, you know what, it's like, I don't believe he actually died. He was probably knocked out before they did all this.
And now... now, no, he's, you know, they see him die, they see him crucified. This is a public event. You see him raised from the dead. And now everything that you thought about death is completely
off.
it's just blown up. So now it's just like when you find, once again, let's go to another historical event. Think about what happened when you realized the world wasn't flat. Do you realize what that did? Once they realized the world wasn't flat, Think about when Galileo pointed out the fact that we weren't at the center of the universe and that the sun was. Do you know what that did?
It threw everybody off. Like
It threw everybody off, but also like that's why they call it that was during the area of time in history that was called like what, the Enlightenment, right? The Renaissance, man.
Renaissance,
Open your eyes, man.
Yeah.
To all kinds of other possibilities.
Yeah, it changed everything, man. 16th, 17th century blew the doors off of like science, art, music, everything, and that's what this event does here. It blows the hinges off of what the reality of life really is. Like he said, it opened up the door to show you that a new creation was ushered in this event. Oh wow! Like if he's raised from the dead, man, what's that gonna do for us?
They're like, that means we can be resurrected.
Yeah, that means we can be resurrected. So now, what's the ultimate thing that everybody fears in life?
Death.
Dying.
Death. It's the ultimate bully. It is the ultimate slave master. Death is the ultimate slave. Because no matter what you do in your life, no matter how good or how bad it is, death is some people call it the great equalizer. Because everybody's going to die. So when that's in your worldview, that's why tyrants use it. That's why evil men use death and destruction, suicide bombers. They use that. That fear of death is strong, man. It grips people. Death can keep you from living your life. If you're like really afraid to die and you're just like a panicky person, you won't step 2 feet outside your house. You just be like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Like, what's your biggest fear? Dying. Why? Because I don't want to die. And it's that fear of the unknown. It's that uncertainty. It's all that. Well, here now,
Jesus gives you certainty that there's something else there.
That's exactly.
For the believer,
Yeah.
tells you that there's. It shouldn't be as fearful as it once was, because there is. He's telling there is something else on the other side. In a way, you don't really ever completely die. Your body dies, but
even that gets renewed.
Your spirit, the spirit of the believer doesn't ever die.
Right.
Gives you faith.
Mm-hmm. Gives you faith, gives you hope, and it kills that fear. And that's like he said at the end. That's why you see guys like, if you ever read Fox's Book of Martyrs, if you ever go through it, you see people going to the rack, getting put in hot seats. That's where we get that term from. It was a torture during the Inquisition and during the time where you would heat up an iron chair till it was red hot. Okay. Now think about it. The whole chair is iron. You heat it up, you get it nice and hot. It's red.
That means it's red hot, and that boy's hot.
And what you do is you take someone naked, and then you say, okay, you have a chance to recant.
So it says on it?
And then if they don't recant,
if you don't
take back what you believe, if you don't take back what you said, I'm going to sit you in that seat.
So that's torturing.
That's torture on a whole nother. And so you got now, for a person who thought they believed in a lie or a delusion, they're probably going to go, you know what? Rethinking all this, I want to take back what I said. These cats did. Peter was crucified upside down. They said, you know what? I'm not even worthy to be crucified like my Savior. So how about you guys just hang me upside down? It's not as if crucifixion isn't bad enough. He was hung upside down. So now not only are you being like tortured, but now all the blood's rushing to your head.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
The cross that you see on the rebel flag, how it goes like this, and what you see on the Scottish flag, that's called St. Andrew's Cross. That's how he was crucified. So he was crucified like that. If you believed a lie, you would not endure that. You would not be eaten by lions for it. You would not. So obviously, this was a reality for them. Where it changes, it takes away that fear. Like he said, that proof that Jesus resurrected from the dead, they wouldn't have done that because you would have been so fearful that, man, these guys are going to kill me, and they're going to kill me good. And they weren't afraid of that because they knew that
Jesus would bring them back.
Yeah, because they were coming back.
It's like, he brought it back. His boy.
Yeah, like he rode like Lazarus. So you got all this, you know, and it's all coming back to you, and you're like, man,
like,
I'm not afraid. That's why I'm afraid of any hymn is, you know, oh death, where is thy sting? Where is thy sting? You know, I love that line because that's what it is. Basically, he conquered death when he rose from the grave. So now, that fear, that slave master, death, you've been emancipated from that. It is no longer an issue to you. So you are free to go out into this world and live for God's glory without the fear of something happening to you that's going to be, you know, that you won't be able to reverse. Because that's really the fear. Is death to most people who aren't believers. Death to most people are like, you know, it's not reversible. That's why most people live in a panic. They're trying to get everything they can while they can. They're panicking. I need to have it. I need to do this now because you only live once, right? But what happens when you live forever? Are you panicking?
No.
No, you just take your time.
I mean, technically you do live forever because your soul lives on.
Right.
You're not
but some people don't believe that.
Yeah.
They
But-
say,
But if you live forever, you get old and then you get tired of doing things.
you get tired of doing the mundane things in this life. And
But when you get old, you get weak.
you get weak.
And then
But the renewed body, your resurrection body, won't get old. It won't get tired.
And you won't be worried about any of the mundane crap that you have to worry about
Right.
here.
You won't be worried about that. Paying bills, sickness, my knees hurting, my thyroid not working, you know, having to get up early to go to work because I have to work.
None of that stuff will be there.
None of that stuff will matter and it won't be there anymore. You will do what you do to the glory of God, to the fullness of that, with no worry,
Yeah.
with unhindered. And we can't even imagine what's that. I mean, that's something that's so like amazing that your mind might be kind of able, you get glimpses of that like when you go on vacation. Like you get a small teeny.
It's like technically a permanent vacation.
Yeah, it's like imagine doing the best thing ever with people that you like. And I heard Francis Chan describe what it's like or what resurrection would be like. He goes, think about this. And he was at a conference, and I'd never heard it explained like this. When I heard it, I was like, it was the coolest thing I ever heard. He said, think about it this way. Everybody in this room, if you are in Christ, 100 years from now, I'm going to see your face. So see how we like get together here, have fun, laugh, joke? Imagine being able to do that all the time. All the time. With no worry about, oh man, I got to get up and go to school tomorrow. Oh man, I got to get up and go to work. I got to figure out how I got to pay this. None of that. And on top of that, Jesus will be there, which makes it even better because that's the ultimate reward for the Christian, to see him face to face, right? So now you don't just have this group, you have everybody who you've ever wanted to be. If they're in Christ, that's 100 years from now, you're all there together. Ultimate community, which is what everybody really wants. That's why Facebook, you ever think about why Facebook and all stuff so popular? It's because people want
attention.
They want attention. They want to be loved. They want to have something. But we're so broken and dysfunctional. We think that having 1,000 friends on Facebook means something.
It really doesn't.
you add random people and
right. It's just
those
randomness.
Those random people is gonna know your personalities and everything.
But imagine having friends where you have no reason to hide, shelter, to not be vulnerable or whatever. That's what community is like. That's what resurrection is like. So you know. When people go, man, I remember talking to, I can't remember who it was I was talking to. They were like, yeah, man, it sounds great, but like, what are we going to do once we get there?
You'll find out when you get there.
Yeah, we're going to be bored. Like, it doesn't even matter, like, what you're going to do. What do you mean? What are you afraid you're going to get bored? You're going to get bored?
You're gonna be reunited with practically everybody you knew during your life.
You're going to get to pet a lion. How's that for boredom? You'll
have a talking dinosaur.
You'll be able to pet a lion. Wait for it. Without the fear of that lion eating you in that moment, you won't have to worry about that. You won't have to say, "Man, I might have to." Or
you won't have to worry about death. Period.
Yeah, you won't have to worry about. But everything will be the way it was supposed to be.
Perfect.
In the beginning. It'll be perfect harmony. That's the way it was
supposed to be set up.
Well, it wasn't Eve. I mean, Adam. It says Adam was standing right next to her. So
I mean, it was Eve. Eve led him into temptation.
Sure.
That's why it says do not lead into temptation.
No, that is no. And just for the record, any woman that sees this That's on him.
No, point the camera. All right, Sean.
That's Isaac Vasquez. He lives at. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
Man, put that ball on the spot.
Question 4.
wow, Sean, you're a great friend. You know that.
Question 4.
You gotta defend me in case they see it.
You know what? He really is he's a good guy.
Thank
he
you.
just,
Yeah.
he just. He
It was-
made it.
It's because he's young.
Yeah,
That's why.
Yeah, that's why.
Okay, I feel bad. I mean, understand. You've been there.
Question 4. How does the resurrection show that Christianity did not begin as a new religious experience? It's not just like a religion.
I don't
Okay, well,
understand that question.
okay.
Yeah, I didn't either.
A
Threw me
religious,
off.
a religious experience is like it is like when someone just has some kind of epiphany. Do you understand? Like it's like when someone has like a. You ever heard of like a mountaintop experience where someone
Like Romans 9 when I heard it.
sort of. What? No, because that's that. No, I'm talking about like like someone like kind of goes up and goes, man, I'll give you an example. Mormons. Let's go with Mormons because I just had the little run-in. You guys missed the run-in with the Mormon talk. Mormons. Joseph Smith had what we would call a religious experience. He said that Jesus Christ came to him and told him that like everybody else had gotten it all wrong, and that he was gonna give him this new prophecy, and it started like a whole new movement. That's kind of like a religious experience. In other words, they didn't just have like this moment of aha or just something off the top of the head go, you know what? He didn't really rise, but maybe he did rise in our hearts. It wasn't that kind of moment. It was like, no, he was really there. He was physically there. That's the difference. It's not just, they're not just getting all emotional after he died and saying, but we feel that he's still here with us, right here, warm and fuzzies. That's not what happened. It was like, no, I'm physically here. As a matter of fact, what most people don't realize, he was there 40 days. So he didn't just rise, go, hey guys, back, what's up, high five, all right, up in the air, see you later. That didn't happen.
Deuces, homies.
Yeah, he didn't just deuce it out. After he was here for 40 more days on the earth, getting them ready to go out into the world. So this is not
He gave him a reason not to fear death.
yeah, this is not so it's not like you can't even the idea of some kind of premonition apparition or some kind of like crazy delusional vision doesn't work, because if they were delusional, man, whatever they were drinking, find me some of that, because for anybody to be delusional or have a mass delusion for 40 days, that's some strong Kool-Aid, homie. Strong. I don't know what was in it, but that's awfully strong, and you didn't die from it. He said, but I mean, so this is something that's very, very real. These guys, all 12 of these guys, minus John, who wrote this gospel, died horrible deaths as old men for believing that Jesus rose from the dead. So you don't, especially as an old man, you're not going to be letting somebody like bash your brains in like they did to Jesus' brother James behind a lie when you're old. You're like, you know what, dude, I'm too old for this. This is, it's not going to be a trumped up story doesn't carry on this long, and a trumped up story doesn't end in people carrying it out till their demise. If you went and told a rumor about something and you knew it wasn't true, Billy, how far are you willing to take that? If I'm standing in front of you and go, tell me it's a lie, I'm going to blow your head off.
I would say it's a lie, man.
Yeah. You're not going to lose your life behind a lie. Right.
Not a lie.
Yeah.
Truth, yes.
Yeah.
Not a lie.
Yeah, not a lie. So, I mean, it changes things because, it wasn't a religious experience. They were changed by an actual reality of an event of which they all witnessed. And it blew everything up. And so from there on, they like caught fire and they were off.
And it was a series of things that happened too. They continued to happen rather than being like one thing happening. I know.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, I thought of when you're talking about like a religious experience. I was thinking of I know it's I guess a goofy pop reference, but thinking of when in the episode of It's Sunny in Philadelphia when in the bathroom there was a stain. There was a stain that was supposedly
Mary or
it was supposedly in the shape of the Virgin Mary, you know. But the idea of something like that, you know, if it were real, you know, and then hey, you know, there's this shape of the Virgin Mary, you know, in this water stain, you know, at this bar, you know, you have a bunch of people come and look at this thing. Well, you know, that's like a religious experience for them, because they'll come and see this, and then all of a sudden they change their life around and all, you know, because this one thing that happened, as opposed to you know, a series of things and something, you know, like real. You know,
yeah, I think him pointing that out is pretty cool, because he, like he said, it's a series of events, and now he mentions that. The one thing you notice about it's aggressive. Think about it. He's showing up to people, like he's going to them. Like, it's not like he said with the bar, or someone comes along and goes, "Oh my God, you got to come see the stain. Come see the stain. It looks like the Virgin Mary." Everybody has a flock to it. No. He's like aggressively like showing up to people on purpose. They're not seeking him out, because as far as they were concerned,
he was dead.
He was dead. So he goes and finds.
And they were scared, because they're like, he's back.
Right.
We're gonna
they're
get
scared.
it.
Yeah. Now they're scared. You know, and they're scared that they're next. You know, after he died, they were like, well, if they did that to him, and they remember what he said to them. If they persecute me, they're gonna persecute you too, right? So after he dies, they go in the upper room, and they're basically like hiding out, because they're thinking, man, we're next. When they find us, it's a wrap. And he found them first, and they were even more scared of him. Like Billy said, they were that, because it makes a point of saying that the door was locked when he showed up to Thomas. You know, they're upstairs in a locked room, and then he appears in the middle of the room, and they were like, oh. That's why he tells them, do not fear. Because even right now, we're sitting here having a Bible study. If Jesus showed up in this room right now, I'm pretty sure everybody in the room is going to pee just a little bit in their pants.
Just a tad.
Just a little. I'm pretty, everybody, because that is a natural response, one, to being in the presence of someone that holy. The ultimate of holiness, the embodiment of holiness. Because when you're in the presence of that, you know what the first thing you're gonna realize is?
Your eyes finally open?
Yeah, and what's the first thing you're gonna realize? You're not that holy. That's the first thing. When it's just like if you're, you know how you think you're clean, and you know, like right now we all, you know, take some showers, get all cleaned up. But if you brought a black light in here, what would happen?
Show dirtiness.
Yeah, it will show dirt and stains you ain't never seen. That's what happens in the presence of Jesus. That's what happens when you start to come to a real working knowledge and saving faith of Christ too. The more you come to realize who Jesus is, the more you realize that you're not, as I like to say. Like you start to realize like, you know, you're dirty and holy. And so that we would all do that. We'd pee our pants a little bit too. And the last question. Question 5. Resurrection life begins here and now. But what does this resurrection life look like? How does the resurrection affect the way we live as part of a global community and as part of our own local communities, churches, and families?
It takes fear away from death.
Takes fear away from death.
Because you're like, if I die, there's another light opens.
Mm-hmm.
It's like another bright light. It's like you have nothing to worry about.
That's one. Very good. So we don't have a fear of death anymore.
Yeah,
what
take
else?
the easiest one.
What else? I mean,
You live your life without fearing anything. Like basically,
right.
you go with it.
Yeah, you go because you don't fear. If you know that, then you're not so big on preserving your life. Now you're not preserving your popularity.
Yeah, I'll think of all things like your faith just gets stronger. Period, no matter what.
Right.
Because you just well then therein lies probably a whole nother Bible study that our work is not done here either.
Good point, and that is the point, that because you now know that you live because of Jesus, then now what your business is now, you're in the business of grave dig. You're in the business of grave robbers.
We're fishermen.
And you're fishermen and grave robbers. That's your job now is to go out and you're trying to bring other people out of their sleep. There's, you know, and now we don't do it personally. The Holy Spirit does it, obviously, but we get the privilege. And I say this because I think a lot of people overlook it. It is a privilege. Like when you're saved, it's a privilege to participate in the act of talking about and bringing other people into that whole kingdom realization and all that stuff. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that does. It changes, and as you see here, it changes you forever. These 12 guys were forever changed. They were not the same people, and they were, because that's all they were fishermen, and you know, some of them were tax collectors, man. Some of them were. These are some really rough and tumble dudes who, some of them were pretty dirty dudes, and they were changed forever after that. You know, some of them were even rumored to be a little bit violent. But after that, you know, they changed and they turned around. So it changes your reality. It changes the way you view the reality around you as well. You know, there's life always, and you start to appreciate not only this life but the life to come as well. And that causes you to treat people, places, and things, even in this life, differently. You know, so I think that's great. So good study. We almost ran out of time, huh?
23 minutes left. Do you want
Yeah.
to do a closing statement? Do you want to do anything on that book right there? I see you guys sitting there over there. You want to let them know what's next?
Oh yeah, next time we're gonna be going over this. This is awesome because it's short, sweet. We can actually hit this in one session if we want to. The Prodigal God by Tim Keller. You guys missed the Reason for God study. You will not want to miss this one. Short and sweet. It's a good one. Man,
Next week, right?
Everybody's heard the Prodigal Son. Everybody's heard the story of the Prodigal Son.
I can't next Saturday. I have prom.
Well, after that.
I have a baseball banquet.
Well, after
at Skeeter's game.
After that. Yeah, the prodigal son. Everybody's heard the story of it, but this turns what we know on his head. So this dude here. So Prodigal God, Tim Keller. Tim Keller's a beast. And that's it, man. Zeros and ones. We're out of here.